Well, good evening once again and welcome to this week's first episode of On Your Record. Well, on the show tonight, we bring you an exclusive interview with the rather elusive exiled South Sudan opposition leader, Riek Machar, the man thought to be holding the key to silencing the gun in that country. First up, though, the stories we're tracking for you today. Well, months before local government elections, the ANC is finding itself in a prickly position in a metro and a province that has so eluded it in recent elections. Today, the ANC top brass asked its provincial chair, Marius Fransman, to step aside pending the outcome of an independent internal inquiry. Now, before we cross live to Cape Town to a member of the ANC's National Executive Committee, here's a bit of a background to today's events.
The ANC in the Western Cape has found itself in a tough spot lately. Both its provincial chairperson and secretary have criminal investigations against them. Western Cape Party chair Marius Fransman is embroiled in a scandal following charges of sexual harassment. And provincial secretary Faiz Jacobs stands accused of physically assaulting a staff member.
The provincial chairperson has been asked to step aside for the duration of the investigation of the allegation labeled against him. That the provincial secretary has been asked to step aside for the duration of the dismissal process against him. That is in the interest of protecting both of them and the ANC.
Jacobs has requested that his matter be dealt with by the National Disciplinary Committee. ANC Secretary-General Gwede Mantashe says the region's branches are healthy, but the Provincial Executive Committee needs support.
Regions in the Western Cape, all of them are in good shape. All the regions are operational, they're functional, and that is where the basis of the organization is. That's where branches are. There's no branch that is in the provincial office. Branches are in the regions. All those regions are operational and they're stable. And to us, that gave us a basis to believe that the Western Cape is in good shape. Incidents doesn't take it out of alignment.
One caretaker will attend to the chairperson's office, another will assist the office of the secretary. A third will oversee administrative matters. Abra Barbia, SABC News, Cape Town.
Well, for more on this story, I'm joined from our Cape Town studio by ANC NEC member and national spokesperson Zizi Kodwa. Mr. Kodwa, good evening and thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks very much for your good evening to you.
Well, let's start by how quick is this process going to be?
Well, like we indicated, if you recall, we did send a letter a few days ago indicating the decision of the National Working Committee. A few days later, we were in Cape Town. The national officials were in Cape Town the whole day today. And it's a seriousness in which we take the matter of the Western Cape, where I'm certain that in a couple of few days, we should be able to come back to the Western Cape to indicate the names of the positions and people that we will be asking to come and help in the Western Cape as caretaker, like you indicated. People have got to look at we've got to take a load from those members from other positions and deployments they have so that they can simply focus in the Western Cape.
Now, you had, the leadership of the ANC had interactions with Mr. Fransman previously, prior to today's meetings. Now, what's going to happen beyond this point? Is that going to take over from what you had already started doing, or are you starting afresh completely?
No, not at all. The provincial leadership of the ANC in the Western Cape is intact in the form of the PEC. What we thought we should do, because we are satisfied that the structures of the organization beneath the PEC, which is your RECs, which is your branches, your zonal structures, are quite strong. The ANC is aligned, quite active. There were issues that we have made observations about the PEC. So what had happened today is simply to say, the PEC, carry on with your work, but appreciating the weaknesses structurally in the PEC. Of course, the decision to ask both the secretary and the provincial chairperson is unprecedented, and therefore it's a responsibility of the national leadership to strengthen the PEC.
Do you think, what do you think this is going to, what impact is this going to have on your election program in the Western Cape?
Not at all. If you look at the ANC, we don't subscribe to the notion of a leader. That's why these campaigns, the programs of the ANC, the success or the failures of those programs are never centered around an individual. Because individual, we subscribe to the notion of a collective leadership. That's why the ANC have lived for more than 104 years, because it has never been about the popularity, about the presence of an individual. We're quite confident that the people of Western Cape, in their numbers, particularly the people of Cape Town as a metro, are quite supportive, and they will continue to bestow their confidence in the ANC. That's why we said last week, we will fight tooth and nail to win back metro, particularly city of Cape Town, as well as retaining other metros. We don't think the decision we took will have any negative impact to our campaign in the Western Cape, but particularly in Cape Town. I might say also as well that this is a principled decision that is about the reputation of both members, to protect their reputation and that of the ANC. And it will take such decision even it's on the eve of the elections, because it's for the ANC that must survive even beyond elections.
Well, and what about those who have been affected or impacted on by this decision? I'm talking here about your other comrade that your provincial secretary was involved in a brawl with, but also the woman who made the allegations against Fransman. Are you taking care of those as well?
Well, the details of the cases, quite frankly, I'm not aware of both the people who are accused and people who have laid charges, their whereabouts. I'm not in a position to discuss the details, both in terms of the merits, but also the whereabouts of people who are involved in each of the cases.
Well, I thought you would, because, I mean, on the Fransman thing, is someone who was working in his office, and on the Jacobs thing, the same story.
Well, like we said, part of the reason we came here was, among others, to allow the investigations and this process to run smoothly, but also to make sure that even the people we are talking about, they've got confidence in the leadership of the ANC in a manner that we deal with this matter fairly, that people don't use their position to influence the outcome. Precisely that reason we thought we should come and ask the two members to step aside, equally also to give confidence to those who are affected as those who have laid charges, so that they can believe in the system.
Well, all of this is happening in a region and a province where you are arguably weakest. I mean, the Western Cape is run by the DA, the Cape Town Metro is run by the DA. Are you going to be able to stop the DA's runaway train?
The point we make is that the success of the ANC campaign on any program is not centered around an individual. The fact that there is no chairperson or there is no secretary or anybody is not the strength and the weakness of the African National Congress. The fact that you've got very strong base in a form of branches, in a form of region, that for us is an indication that as an organization we are here to live and to carry on the responsibility as outlined both in the January 8th statement, but also with a commitment that came out of Lekgotla, that we must fight tooth and nail to win back the city of Cape Town, and as well as we must equally do the same with other metros where at the moment the ANC is governing party. But we don't think necessarily, because of the decision we took in relation to the two cases, has got any negative bearing on our ability to soldier on.
So you don't think that this episode comes or is going to come as a gift to Madame Patricia de Lille, who was already steps ahead of the ANC, truth be told?
Well, doomsayers have always made a point that they've written an obituary of the ANC since 1912. The ANC has gone through many turbulences. The art of leadership has always been, how do you manage the leadership or the organization post the eye of the storm? We are going through that process, and I think the strength of the ANC is its ability to manage post the eye of the storm. This too shall pass.
And you think you will be able to achieve that goal that you had set yourself of reclaiming the metropolitan municipality from the DA?
We have no reason to doubt. I think anybody would think that the effect of the decision would actually be, not be able to win over what we have set for ourselves. That's political somnambulism, because the African National Congress, I think our strength, given what the surveys and the research we've done, we are beginning to get indication that we must remember it was not because of our weakness or anything else that the TA took over Western Cape and the city of Cape Town. It was inherently some of intra-contradictions within the party, and therefore it was not because of the strength of the opposition that they took over. It was on the weaknesses and intra-contradictions that at a particular time in history, probably they were not managed well in the organization. And we have learned and took some lessons from that, and I think we've become more stronger, like a rose that grew from the concrete. We've faced different challenges at different times, and I think we're more ready to take over the task of winning over the city of Cape Town.
And when are you announcing your candidates for mayor in the metros?
We had already taken a decision that, unlike in the past, there are some strategic initiatives and detours we need to take, including announcing mayors in many strategic municipalities prior to the election so that they have become part of the campaign. As you are aware, we are launching the National Manifesto in PE soon, and I think we should be able, when we get there, because that on its own must be informed by selection of candidates, which is already underway from different parts of the country, different branches of the ANC, about 2,000 of them. At the end of that process, we should be able to determine as and when and which strategic municipalities will announce ahead of time.
And you're not expecting any fights over the names of possible candidates?
The selection of candidates is quite an intense process. There's always competition, there's always contestation, there's always careers, there's always ambitions. And I think that the issue that we at least must appreciate, even the tensions you have now, are less than what you had in 2011. And I think it's because of how politically we've learned from 2011 to manage these processes going forward. The one incident or two we've seen cannot actually characterize and make a statement to suggest that the process itself is actually chaotic. If you look at more than 2,000 branches of the ANC in the country, the process has gone smoothly well, including adherence to an important principle of public meetings, where we insist to our organization that community meetings are not an option, it's a policy of the organization. Any candidate that emerges must have gone through community approval.
Mr. Zizikwadwa, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Zizikwadwa, the national spokesperson of the ANC, coming to us live from our Cape Town studio. Well, time to take a quick break. When we return, our exclusive interview with South Sudan's exiled leader of the opposition.
We make sure to bring you exciting entertainment news on Trends. Ayanda, a vibrant South African movie told with love, passion and exceptional acting.
For Ayanda, at least, it says that we are heading in the right direction. South African films are growing and they are heading in the right direction to become international movies.
The Urban Art Festival artists brought back colour to old buildings of Johannesburg with their spray cans.
Festival to promote graffiti in Johannesburg and also to promote the Johannesburg inner city. But it brings a number of international artists out, and then they paint with our local artists, and they paint throughout the inner city.
We even give you tips on making healthy and fruity cocktails.
Low carbs, fun cocktails for the summer.
Join Refulo Muilwa every Friday for that 1 hour weekly dose of art and entertainment news at 9 p.m. on Trends.
Welcome back. You're watching On the Record. Well, African leaders this past weekend once again recommitted themselves to silencing the gun on the continent. This amid several humanitarian crises that are building up in places like South Sudan. Now, the world's newest state is caught up in a web of violence displacements, rape, and death, thanks in no small measure to the country's warring political leaders. Opposition leader Riek Machar is in self-imposed exile in Ethiopia, and I caught up with him at the weekend. I began by asking him why he was refusing to go back home and what it is that it would take for him to change his mind.
I have dispatched an advance team led by General Tabandeng, who is our chief negotiator to Juba. That advance team is composed of 250 men and women, of which most of our leadership is in Juba. They went to pursue the process of implementation of the agreement. Now, part of the process is to incorporate the agreement into the current transitional constitution. The teams working on this process have reached more or less a deadlock, and on particularly one issue, the number of states in South Sudan. The agreement stipulates that the number of states is 10, which the existing ones. But since October the 2nd, President Salva has declared 28 states, which is ultra-virus to the agreement. So the debate is still on this, you know. So the government has not he has not moved on that one.
Is it a make or break for you, the issue of the states, the number of states?
Definitely it is, because it's a violation. When one side acts ultra-virus to the agreement, and this is a violation, and it is an obstacle to getting a constitution.
So you wouldn't even open negotiations on that one to say, maybe let's meet each other halfway. Instead of 28, he brings them down, and maybe you agree that they go up from the original 10.
Well, you know, the agreement was brokered by IGAD plus other 5 countries, including your country, South Africa. So it will depend on them whether they want to change the text of the agreement on this particular issue. So we'll wait. The ball is on the court of the grantors of this agreement.
What do you think lies behind the government's insistence on having 28 instead of the original 10 that was agreed to?
You know, when we were in the negotiations, we had suggested 21 states rather than the 10 states which were existing. But then the government and the mediators thought our suggestion was going to be costly. But we told them that the increment of states is very popular in South Sudan. I think they went back, the government went back and found that our suggestion was popular, and they added 7 to it. But this is, they thought late. We already were locked in an agreement which says 10 states. Well, so on principle, the idea came from us, but they rejected it when we were negotiating. Now to come back and say, after both have signed an agreement, and then you say, well, probably we are right, only that we want to add 7 to make it 28. That puts the agreement in a very precarious situation. One would get up overnight and say, I want to change the agreement.
If what the government wants now is close to what you wanted originally, in any case, can't you then just say, okay, you've come back to your senses, we had told you that we needed more instead of less, so, and then just agree and then get the process to move on?
We would be accused of violating the agreement. So that's why I said the ball is on the court of the mediators and the grantors. They want to change the text of the agreement, then they won't blame us, you know. We don't want to be blamed for changing the text of the agreement at all.
But if everybody else agrees, you want to oppose?
We'll talk.
Is there something else that could make or break the negotiations from this point?
Currently, there are two issues which we think we could resolve. One of them is when the Transitional National Assembly sits, the first sitting, who would share it? The norm is always the elderly person, the most elderly person would share it. The government is saying their current speaker. So we're saying no, that's not possible. And there's another issue on the whether we have presidential advisors. This is not mentioned in the agreement, but these are issues that we can discuss.
Why do you oppose the current speaker? Do you think they are biased?
It's just that the Transitional National Legislative Assembly is a new one, so it cannot be shared by the current speaker. The current speaker can share the current national legislature, but not the transitional one, because this is a new one.
Ideally, if you were to put suggestions on the table, what kind of a person would you look out for?
The most elderly person in the assembly. I don't know who is the most elderly person in the assembly currently.
So age is all that matters to you?
Yeah, age is that matters. That is credibility in a form.
Anything else that you're going to insist on?
Well, these are the three main issues. We want a constitution. We want to kick off the transitional government of national unity as soon as possible.
The Secretary General of the United Nations said at the AU that both parties to this conflict should take blame for what is going on. Are you prepared to take at least some of the blame for the current state of affairs? I
want to know, what is it that I have not implemented from my side to take a blame? You know, this idea of share blame, balance blame, doesn't help. A spade should be called a spade.
Well, I guess it is to the extent that, you know, over a period, millions of people have been displaced, thousands have died. I think he was saying it in that spirit, that both parties to the conflict should at least regret the fact that, you know, lives have been lost, people have been displaced, and to an extent take some blame.
You see, before December 15th, 2013, I was among those who said war is over in South Sudan, war is over in the two Sudans. Unfortunately, I was caught by surprise when war erupted again, and particularly in Juba. And to me, as a former liberator, and who participated effectively to ensure that South Sudan becomes independent, I wouldn't want to see any war again. We now have been forced to fight a war. We don't like it. We see the devastation it has taken, the displacement, the millions who have been displaced, the thousands that have been killed. This is not what we want in an independent South Sudan. If it is that, yes, because we decide to resist, and to us, it's a just war. What happened in Juba, massacres, genocide, was unjustifiable.
If all the stumbling blocks, the current stumbling blocks, are removed, do you see yourself being able to work with President Salva Kiir?
Well, why not? We have a code of book which we're going to follow. So we will work.
To the world out there that looks at you as both being complicit, as was to an extent said by the UN Secretary General. What do you say to the world, those people who will be watching? Yes.
I am a victim. I cannot be equated to a government that killed its own people, to a government that has displaced its people. So a victim and a perpetrator cannot be equated in this situation. I thought the sympathy would be with us more than with the government, you know. Initially we took a position that this government should leave, but because we, for sake of compromise, for sake of bringing our people together, we said, okay, we could work with it, and we go for elections in 3 years.
And you don't hold any personal grudge against President Salva Kiir that may just make it impossible for the two of you to work together?
Would it help me? Would it help my people? It won't.
South Sudan's exiled opposition leader, Riek Machar. Well, a day after that interview, we tracked down South Sudan's Foreign Minister, Barnaba Benjamin, who had earlier briefed African Union ministers on their version of the situation in his country.
The fact that the President of the Republic, President Salva Kiir Mayardit, from the day we signed the peace agreement, expressed clearly and said the war has ended and that we are fully committed to implement this peace agreement on the Republic of South Sudan. And he has gone ahead to take steps in that direction. As I said, he has declared a permanent ceasefire, for example. The advanced rebel team led by the chief negotiator is already in Juba with nearly 150 from the political leadership of Riek Machar's opposition group. He has equally sort of appointed 50 nominated members of parliament by Dr. Riek into our National Assembly. The team that came to Juba had requested to go to the headquarters for consultations. They were allowed. They flew, spent 4 days. Consultation came back to Juba. We have actually agreed on the ministries. The opposition is getting 10 ministries. Even the nominations from other political parties and the rest are already with the JAMAC chair, you know.
Well, I spoke to him after we spoke to you, told him what you had told us, and he's adamant that he is not able to go back to Juba just yet. He says that, number one, on the states issue, the 28 states, you have broken the terms of the agreement, and that's one reason he doesn't feel that it's time for him to go back.
It is not an issue. He himself has actually also, he has got 21 states to which he had even appointed governors to it. Ours is 28, and we are saying this is an issue that we discuss. He is now designated the first vice president of the republic. So when he comes, he will be in the center of power with 10 ministers in the government. And I think this issue of states is a popular demand of the people of South Sudan. And it is an issue that can be discussed in Juba. It doesn't need to keep him out of the country.
The other issues he's citing as reasons for him not being able to go back to Juba yet is that he says there's still a state of emergency. He says his own delegation negotiating team, before it can leave Juba, it has to ask for permission from the head of state. And he says so those conditions from where he sits are not conducive.
No, those are the conditions. When he comes as the first vice president, as a part of the government, he will discuss it. Not only that, it is also we have got the responsibility for the presence of the SPLM-IO opposition, the advanced team in the country. If we do not know where they have gone, and if anything happens to anybody, who will be held accountable? There is accountability here. And I think this is not an issue, because even we members of the government, before I travel out of the country, I have to tell my government where I'm going to, because there is the issue of security here and responsibility. I don't think that is a real excuse. This is something on the issue of the state of emergency. State of emergency, not in every part of South Sudan, in those parts where there are problems.
So from where you sit, there is no deadlock. And I'm using the word deadlock because that's exactly exactly the word he used to say negotiations have come to a deadlock.
I don't think there is no deadlock in this. There's nothing really to negotiate about, because what we are doing is implementing the peace agreement that we have signed, including him. So we are telling him, come home so that we can begin to implement the peace process. I think he's making an excuse of not trying to come home for other reasons. But I don't think it is because there is any deadlock at all. Not at all. There's no deadlock on this issue.
Let me ask you something I asked him as well. The Secretary General of the UN, when he spoke addressing heads of state and everyone who was in that plenary, said the leadership of that country owe it to the people of that country in particular, and perhaps to some extent to the rest of the world, to say everything that was done in your name, you should be able as leaders to stand up and say, we take the blame for what has happened. Well, he refused to take the blame, but are you prepared to take the blame?
Look, for us, the fact that there is a war that broke out, any responsible government that is elected by the people of the country will definitely say it was unfortunate that really this war that has broken out, that has led to it. There's a lot of our citizens. We should be very sorry about it. There's no question about that. If you are a political leader, you must hold the responsibility of the security of your citizens, of which you should be very proud of. And especially if you have fought on their behalf in order to get your dignity and your identity. And this is the process of reconciliation. That's what will come out. When we reconcile our people, of course, the political leadership will have to apologize to the people of South Sudan for the sad incidents that have happened. I think we have no problem with that. It is a part of our responsibility, because this is an elected government. It is not a government that has come out of the blue. It owes a lot to his people, and that is the people of South Sudan. So I believe, and that's why we are telling Riek Machar the best solution is come home. Let us implement the agreement that we have signed. Why are you keeping out? You have sent all your advance team. What takes your advance team to South Sudan and keeps you out? Where is your leadership here? It's a challenge to him.
Now, how confident are you that when he returns, ultimately, all the stuff we're talking about now gets resolved? Genuinely, truly, and honestly, do you think the two leaders will be able to work together in the interests of the country?
I can assure you, my President Salva Kiir Mayadi said, look, he said the war has ended and I'm willing to work again with my brother, Dr. Riek Machar. That is the exact statement of my president. So I'm aware on the side of my president, who is an elected president, by the way, he's willing and he has agreed. And that's why he's agreed that Riek Machar can become his first vice president of the republic. It means they are going to work together. I think Dr. Riek needs to be persuaded also to take a bold stand as also a political leader in his own right, to see that he can keep to the level he is in. And that is, his team is at home. So why is he not there?
Get all the latest news from the SABC's online news services on our website. Breaking news and in-depth coverage of everything from business, sports to politics and lifestyle. Catch the top news clips and watch live streaming of major news events on the SABC News YouTube channel whenever. Stay connected on the SABC News Facebook page and have your say on news that matters to you. And for the latest headlines and live updates from our reporters, follow us on Twitter. SABC Digital News, anytime, anywhere.
Africa's tech scene is constantly coming up with innovative ways to answer some of the continent's problems.
We source content from social media, from our mobile apps, from our website.
And as people move from phone calls to data, companies have to switch what they offer.
People expect to get higher speeds, better quality broadband for less.
On Network, we have information on Africa's technology and social media scene. That's Network with me, Phumelele Zondi, every Sunday at 9 p.m. Central African Time, only on SABC News.
Well, President Robert Mugabe ended his term of office as the president of the African Union at the weekend. Well, lots of things that he said. We're going to give you some excerpts from the speech he made in the presence of UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon.
Your Excellencies, in line with our aspiration to silence the guns by 2020, matters of peace and security were high on our agenda in 2015. Despite new and recurring challenges, our continent witnessed some notable successes, and overall there was political stability. Notwithstanding the spirited attempts to derail transitional processes by negative elements in Burkina Faso and the Central African Republic, the people of these two brotherly countries remained resolute and committed to constitutionalism. To them we say congratulations and well done. May I also congratulate several AU member states which in 2015 successfully held parliamentary and presidential elections. Once again, we have amply demonstrated that Africa has come of age and that democracy is alive on our continent. The ongoing conflicts in South Sudan, Libya, Burundi, Democratic Republic of the Congo, Somalia, and others remain a source of concern for our organization. Even there, we have of late witnessed some glimpses of hope for peace which deserve our support. While we need to redouble our efforts in search of peace, peaceful solutions to these conflict situations, we at the same time urge our brothers and sisters in the affected member states to put the interests of their countries above all other considerations and give peace a chance. Terrorism has become a major scourge and challenge in many parts of Africa, thus negatively affecting the peace and safety of our people. This evil phenomenon threatens to reverse the gains made in the integration and development of our continent. The challenge for us all is to combine our efforts to fight and defeat terrorism in all its manifestations. Your Excellencies, the creation of the African Peace and Security Architecture amply demonstrated Africa's determination and commitment to ridding the continent of conflict and instability. Central to the AU security architecture is the African Standby Force and its rapid deployment capability. The success of Amani Africa 2 field exercises, which were held in South Africa in October-November 2015, means that we now can deploy the Africa Standby Force as a tool for conflict prevention. This should be no doubt a big step towards the goal of silencing the guns by 2020. Your Excellencies, the Agenda 2063 and the first 10-year plan marks this giant step towards the Africa we want. But the Agenda 2063 is only a first step. Much more remains to be done for our vision to become a reality. We therefore need to collectively work with a sense of urgency to finalize the funding, follow-up, and monitoring mechanisms so as to enhance the successful implementation of our plan. In this regard, we look forward to the consideration by this Assembly of the Progress Report on the implementation of Agenda 2063, and in particular, the Africa Resource Mobilization Strategy, which has been developed by the Commission. Your Excellencies, in all our endeavors to implement this important roadmap, we should never lose sight of the fact that the Agenda 2063 is a people's agenda. It is owned by and belongs to the people of Africa. There should be real equality in the Security Council. We can't just be coming to the General Assembly to make empty, hollow speeches and go back home. Nobody takes care of all the concerns we express. No. And anyway, the headquarters is actually of the United Nations is misplaced. Where do you have most of the people? You have 1.2 million people in India, 1.3 in China, and Africa, we are getting to nearly 1 billion also. Now put us together, just these three, and then put those with the white faces and pink noses. Put them together as against us. How many are they, even man to a man? And do we allow that group should continue to harass us even in our independent countries? Regime change, Mugabe should not be there, we want someone else. The Creator was telling me the other day that he had been told that, oh no, your party, Chama cha Mapinduzi, had been in power for too long. You must now allow another party also to take over. Is that democracy? And that was coming from Europe. Tell them to shut their mouths.
Children's rights and health are a priority in the journey of good health.
All children should have access to adequate health care, not only curative but preventative as well.
How to identify ADHD on children.
ADHD is a childhood disorder which manifests with the symptoms of hyperactivity, impulsivity, and or inattention.
Is breastfeeding still a vital nutrition to babies even today?
Breastfeeding for the first 6 months of life is absolutely crucial.
Catch Health Talk with Dr. Sello Mutawung every Saturday from 9 till 10 a.m.
We make sure to bring you exciting entertainment news on Trends. Ayanda, a vibrant South African movie told with love, passion and exceptional acting.
For Ayanda, at least, it says that we are heading in the right direction. South African films are growing and they are heading in the right direction to become international movies.
The Urban Art Festival artists brought back colour to old buildings of Johannesburg with their spray cans.
Festival to promote graffiti in Johannesburg and also to promote the Johannesburg inner city. But it brings a number of international artists out, and then they paint with our local artists, and they paint throughout the inner city.
We even give you tips on making healthy and fruity cocktails.
Low carbs, fun cocktails for the summer.
Join Refulo Muilwa every Friday for that 1 hour weekly dose of art and entertainment news at 9 p.m. on Trends.
Well, for those who followed my tweets and Facebook postings, sincere apologies. We're unable tonight to bring you that interview with the judge president of the African court. Hopefully we'll be able to bring you that tomorrow or over the next couple of days. Well, we're going to leave you now with night pictures of the African Union's splendid headquarters, funded and built by China to the tune of over $200 million, we are told. Well, it's Addis Ababa's tallest building, and it dominates the Ethiopian sky. Enjoy with love from China.
We make sure to bring you exciting entertainment news on Trends. Ayanda, a vibrant South African movie told with love, passion and exceptional acting.
For Ayanda, at least, it says that we are heading in the right direction. South African films are growing and they are heading in the right direction to become international movies.
The Urban Art Festival artists brought back colour to old buildings of Johannesburg with their spray cans.
Festival to promote graffiti in Johannesburg and also to promote the Johannesburg inner city. But it brings a number of international artists out, and then they paint with our local artists, and they paint throughout the inner city.
We even give you tips on making healthy and fruity cocktails.
Low carbs, fun cocktails for the summer.
Join Refulo Muilwa every Friday for that 1 hour weekly dose of art and entertainment news at 9 p.m. on Trend.
SABC News. We report, contextualize and present news and current affairs honestly, fairly and fully. We consider it a duty to provide consistent, relevant, useful and top quality information and analysis. Our mission is to provide credible, accurate and interesting news programming, bringing news into everyone's homes in everyone's languages. Thank you, South Africa, for relying on SABC News for quality news output and for making us your #1 source of information. SABC News, Africa's